You think your job is tough? Try explaining to a patient that they can't demand a financial refund just because their life-saving surgery left a scar. We have gathered 55 of the most insane, entitled, and baffling complaints ever filed against doctors and nurses. These aren't just bad reviews. These are people treating the ER like a failed hotel stay. Prepare yourself because the level of audacity you're about to hear is medically impossible. 1. A patient refused to take his generic blood pressure medication purely because the pill was pink. He wasn't worried about side effects. He was worried about his image. He insisted that pink is a feminine color, and swallowing it would lower his testosterone levels. He demanded the doctor find a masculine-colored pill, preferably blue or gunmetal gray, because his fragile masculinity apparently couldn't survive swallowing a rose-colored tablet to save his own heart from exploding. 2. In the maternity ward, one husband decided he was the main character. He filed a formal grievance for neglect because while his wife was in active labor for 12 hours, the nurses never offered him a pillow or snacks. He claimed the trauma of watching the birth was ignored, and he felt sidelined by the staff. Let's be real here. Is there anything more useless than a man demanding sympathy while his partner is literally pushing a human being into the world? 3. A young influencer arrived with a sprained wrist but refused the standard treatment because the beige elastic bandage clashed with her skin tone. She threw a genuine fit, arguing that the ugly medical supplies ruined the aesthetic for her hospital recovery selfie. She actually asked the nurses if they had any splints in millennial pink or matte black. She was prioritizing her Instagram color palette over the structural integrity of her own skeleton, effectively treating the emergency room like a Sephora. 4. A man with a low-grade fever stormed up to the triage nurse after waiting 20 minutes in a busy ER. He wasn't mad about the wait time. He was mad about the lack of exclusivity. He argued that the hospital should offer a VIP fast pass system where he could pay extra to skip over the peasants with broken legs and chest pains. He was genuinely offended that medical triage is based on who is dying the fastest, rather than who has the platinum credit card in their wallet. 5. After ligament surgery, a patient filed a complaint claiming the operation was a total failure. The twist? He hadn't done a single minute of his prescribed physical therapy. He believed surgery worked like a mechanic replacing a part in a car. You fix it, and it runs perfectly immediately. He was angry the doctor expected him to put in manual labor to heal his own body, calling the concept of physical therapy a scam designed to make patients do the doctor's work for them. 6. A man received his bill after a major surgery and was furious to see a charge for the anesthesiologist. He filed a fraud claim, arguing that he never met this person and shouldn't have to pay a ghost. The administration tried to explain that the doctor's entire job is to render you unconscious before they introduce themselves. He doubled down, claiming that if he didn't see a face, the service didn't happen. 7. A woman undergoing an MRI scan pressed the panic button halfway through the procedure, stopping the expensive operation cold. She wasn't claustrophobic, and she wasn't in pain. Her formal complaint was that the technician was playing aggressive techno music, and she demanded he switch the station to smooth jazz. The staff had to awkwardly explain that the rhythmic thumping wasn't a DJ playlist. It was the literal sound of giant magnets spinning around her skull. She didn't care about physics. She still left a 1-star review for the terrible club atmosphere. 8. A doctor conducting a video appointment received a bizarre complaint that his home office looked too comfortable. The patient argued that seeing a bookshelf and a houseplant in the background made him seem unprofessional, and that he should be required to sit in a sterile, white-tiled room. She felt that getting a diagnosis from someone sitting in a leather chair didn't feel medical enough, as if the validity of his medical degree depended entirely on how uncomfortable his furniture was. 9. Paramedics saved a man from cardiac arrest, breaking 2 ribs and cutting his shirt in the process. A week later, he sued them. Not for the broken ribs, but because they cut his limited edition designer polo to attach the defibrillator pads. He genuinely believed the medics should have taken the precious time to carefully unbutton his shirt while he was clinically dead to preserve the resale value of his fashion. He valued the cotton blend more than his own heartbeat. 10. A woman hooked up to an IV drip buzzed the nurse, annoyed that the bag was still half full. She demanded they turn up the speed on the line. When the nurse explained the fluid needs to enter the bloodstream slowly to be safe, she rolled her eyes. She argued she had places to be and accused the hospital of dripping it slowly just to pad the bill. She treated a medical infusion like pumping gas, thinking if you just squeeze the handle harder, you fill the tank faster. 11. You would think a hospital gown is designed for function, not fashion. But one patient disagreed entirely. She refused to put on the standard issue gown because the geometric print was tacky and the fabric didn't breathe. She actually delayed her own urgent x-ray by 40 minutes while arguing with the staff, demanding they bring her something in organic silk, or at least a solid color that didn't wash her out. She essentially held her own medical care hostage because the hospital didn't offer a couture collection. 12. A man arrived by ambulance after a minor car accident and later filed a scathing complaint against the paramedics. His issue wasn't their medical skills, it was their driving. He claimed they hit too many potholes and took turns too sharply, stating the ride was less comfortable than an Uber X. He genuinely demanded a refund for the ambulance fee because the suspension on the vehicle wasn't luxurious enough, completely ignoring that the bumpy ride was a result of them speeding through traffic to save his neck. 13. A doctor walked into the exam room, introduced himself, and was immediately met with a look of pure disgust. The patient filed a formal grievance stating the physician looked too young to know anything and accused the hospital of employing child labor. The doctor was 35 years old and fully board certified, but because he had a baby face and good skin, the patient refused to let him touch him. Tell me in the comments, would you trust a baby-faced genius, or do you need wrinkles to feel safe? 14. During a routine checkup, a nurse asked a patient to step onto the scale. The number was higher than the patient liked, so naturally, it was a conspiracy. She filed a complaint accusing the nurse of rigging the machine to fat-shame her. She insisted that gravity works differently in a hospital building and that her weight at home is always 10 pounds lighter. She demanded the biomedical engineering team come down and recalibrate the scale to match the number she had in her head. 15. A patient sat in the exam room watching the doctor type notes into a laptop. Suddenly, he stood up and stormed out. His complaint? He accused the doctor of Googling the cure right in front of him. The physician was actually just checking the electronic medical record for drug interactions to keep him safe. But the patient was convinced that using a computer meant the doctor was incompetent. Apparently, unless you have the entire encyclopedia of medicine memorized, you're a fraud. 16. A woman needed to take a simple Tylenol for a headache while admitted. When the nurse handed her a paper cup with water from the sink, the patient swatted it away. She filed a formal dietary request stating she only swallows pills with alkaline spring water because tap water corrodes her insides. She forced a busy nurse to run to the vending machine and buy a $3 bottle of Fiji water just to wash down a 2-cent pill. Is your tap water really that deadly? Or is your ego just that thirsty? 17. A man drove his car right up to the emergency room entrance, tossed his keys at the triage nurse, and limped inside. When he came out hours later and found his car had been towed, he went nuclear. He filed a complaint stating the nurse had failed in his valet duties. He genuinely believed that the medical professional whose job is to assess life-threatening injuries was also responsible for parking his sedan. He treated the front line of a hospital like the entrance to a steakhouse. 18. A teenager was admitted for observation overnight and was absolutely appalled by the lack of amenities. He didn't complain about pain or fear, he complained about the bandwidth. He filed a grievance that the hospital's Wi-Fi lagged during his gaming session, causing him to lose a ranked match. He told the administration that a place of healing should prioritize low-ping internet, so patients don't suffer the emotional damage of a dropped connection. 19. A patient needed a minor procedure that required a local anesthetic injection. As the doctor prepped the needle, the patient stopped him, not out of fear, but out of superstition. He complained that the doctor was standing on his left side, which he claimed was his bad luck side. He forced the entire medical team to rearrange the room, move the equipment, and switch sides so the doctor could approach from the right, ensuring the feng shui of the injection was spiritually aligned. 20. After a successful surgery, a patient was moved to a recovery room that was perfectly clean, quiet, and private. He still filed a complaint. His issue? The room smelled too much like cleaning products. He wrote that the scent of bleach and antiseptic was assaulting his senses and demanded the staff switch to lavender and eucalyptus essential oils to sanitize the floor. He was angry that the hospital, a place designed to kill deadly bacteria, actually smelled like it was doing its job. 21. A patient underwent a complex surgery that was estimated to take 4 hours. The skilled surgeon finished it perfectly in just 2. Instead of being happy, the patient demanded a 50% refund on the bill. His logic was that since the doctor worked faster than expected, he shouldn't have to pay the full price, comparing a life-saving operation to a plumber fixing a leaky sink. He couldn't grasp that you are paying for the years of expertise that allow them to work fast, not the minutes on the clock. 22. A woman scheduled for a C-section stopped everything right before the anesthesia kicked in to ask the surgeon a critical question. What is your zodiac sign? When the doctor replied he was a Gemini, she tried to get off the table. She filed a formal complaint stating that she cannot spiritually align with a Gemini and refused to let one hold a scalpel near her. Seriously, would you check your surgeon's horoscope before letting them save your life, or is that a level of crazy you save for dating? 23. After having his infected appendix removed, a man was absolutely furious when he woke up. He didn't care about the pain, he wanted his souvenir. He demanded the hospital give him the organ in a jar of formaldehyde to put on his mantle. When the staff explained that medical waste is a biohazard and must be incinerated, he accused them of theft, claiming it was his property, and they had no right to throw away his body parts without permission. 24. A frequent watcher of medical dramas filed a disappointment complaint because her hospital stay was boring. She wrote that the doctors were too calm, and there wasn't enough interpersonal drama in the hallways. She genuinely expected the hospital to be like Grey's Anatomy, with surgeons hooking up in supply closets and shouting matches at the nurses' station. She was upset that real professionalism is actually quiet, efficient, and devoid of a soundtrack. 25. A patient who had to drink liquid activated charcoal for a poisoning overdose filed a review about the beverage. He complained that the texture was gritty and the flavor profile was lacking complexity, suggesting the hospital should offer it in mocha or vanilla bean flavors. He treated an emergency antidote like a Starbucks order. Be honest, if you were dying, would you care if the medicine tasted like chalk, or would you just drink it and shut up? 26. A woman was rushed to the ER with chest pains, treated, and released 3 hours later with a clean bill of health. On her way out, she went nuclear on the front desk staff. Her issue? They refused to validate her parking ticket. She had just avoided a heart attack, but she was ready to burn the building down over a $12 parking garage fee. Apparently, her life is priceless, but a parking spot is where she draws the line. 27. The doctor walked in and asked the standard opening question. So, tell me what brings you in today? The patient rolled his eyes and filed a complaint for incompetence. He argued that since the man was a doctor, he should already know what was wrong without asking. He genuinely expected the physician to be a psychic mind reader. He felt that having to explain his own symptoms was doing the doctor's job for him. 28. In the middle of getting stitches for a deep cut, a patient stopped the doctor to ask if the sutures were vegan and cruelty-free. She refused to have them implanted until the doctor could prove they weren't tested on animals or made from animal byproducts. While bleeding freely onto the floor, she held up the entire process to ensure her wound care aligned with her ethical consumption habits. 29. A man sitting in the urgent care waiting room for a flu test filed a formal grievance about the environment. He complained that there were too many sick people around him and that their coughing was ruining his vibe. He demanded a private waiting area because he didn't want to be exposed to the general public's germs. He went to a place designed for sick people and was offended that he found them there. 30. A week after breaking his ankle, a patient returned to the clinic not for a checkup but for a refund. He tried to return his crutches like a pair of pants that didn't fit. He argued that he didn't like using them because they hurt his armpits and wanted his money back so he could just hop around instead. The staff had to explain that medical devices aren't like a Costco purchase. You can't just return them because you decided walking is too much effort. 31. A patient filed a formal grievance against her surgeon for social exclusion. Why? He declined her friend request on Facebook. She argued that since he had seen her naked during surgery, they were practically family, and his refusal to connect online was cold and elitist. She wanted to tag him in her recovery selfies. Tell me in the comments, would you want your doctor seeing your weekend party photos? Or is professional distance the only thing keeping you sane? 32. A man arrived for his 3 p.m. appointment at 10:02 a.m. and then filed a complaint at 10:30 a.m. for the unacceptable wait time. He argued that because he was responsible enough to show up early, the doctor should have sensed his presence and cleared the schedule to accommodate him immediately. He genuinely believed that his personal arrival time automatically reset the entire clinic's operational clock to revolve around him. 33. A patient placed on a strict clear liquid diet before a colonoscopy was caught drinking a miniature bottle of vodka. When the nurse confiscated it, he filed a complaint for theft and dietary policing. His defense was legally sound in his mind. Vodka is a transparent liquid, just like water or Sprite. He was furious that the medical definition of clear liquid didn't include 80-proof spirits to make the hospital stay a party. 34. A young doctor entered the room wearing scrubs instead of a white lab coat. The patient refused to speak to him and filed a complaint about imposters. She claimed that without the official long white jacket, she couldn't verify his credentials and felt unsafe. She essentially needed him to wear a costume to respect his authority, proving that for some people, medicine is less about science and more about the outfit. 35. After a nurse went above and beyond to make a patient comfortable, the patient tried to slip her a $20 bill. When the nurse politely declined due to strict hospital ethics rules, the patient filed a complaint calling her rude and ungrateful. He couldn't grasp that nursing is a highly skilled profession, not a service industry job like waiting tables, and was offended she wouldn't accept his tip for fluffing the pillows. 36. A woman told the triage nurse her pain level was a 12 out of 10, a level that usually implies unconsciousness or screaming. However, she filed a complaint later because the staff didn't take her seriously. Why? Because while claiming this level of agony, she was eating a bag of Cheetos and scrolling through TikTok. She was angry that her actions betrayed her words, expecting the staff to ignore the crunching noises and treat her like a trauma victim. 37. A couple came in for a gender reveal ultrasound, but the baby was curled up and refused to show the goods. The father filed a complaint against the technician for incompetence and bad camera angles. He accused the tech of ruining their gender reveal party planned for that evening. He genuinely blamed the hospital employee for the fetus's lack of cooperation, as if the tech could just reach in and manually rotate the baby for a better photo op. 38. A heavy smoker admitted for pneumonia was told he couldn't smoke anywhere on the hospital grounds. He filed a grievance stating this policy was a violation of his human rights. He argued that the stress of not smoking was worse for his lungs than the cigarettes and demanded the hospital build a ventilated indoor lounge for nicotine addicts. He was literally in a building designed to fix lungs, demanding the right to destroy his. 39. A patient was cleared for discharge at 11 a.m., but he refused to leave until 1 p.m. Why? He filed a complaint that kicking him out before lunch was a financial scam. He argued that his insurance paid for the day, so he was entitled to one last tray of lukewarm hospital lasagna. He treated the medical center like an all-inclusive resort where he wanted to get his money's worth at the buffet before checking out. 40. A patient demanded a specific prescription drug he saw in a TV commercial featuring a happy couple running through a meadow. When the doctor explained that the drug wasn't for his condition, he filed a complaint for withholding treatment. He didn't care about the chemistry, he just wanted the happy meadow pill. He was letting a marketing department dictate his medical care. Who do you trust more, your doctor or a commercial that lists death as a side effect for 30 seconds? 41. A doctor prescribed a standard antibiotic for a sinus infection. The patient called back 2 hours later, enraged. He filed a complaint not about the drug but the name. He claimed the medication name was too hard to pronounce and made him feel stupid when he told his wife what he was taking. He demanded the doctor switch him to a medicine with a simpler, one-syllable name. Apparently, phonics is now a side effect we have to worry about. 42. A man was admitted to the hospital during the Super Bowl. He wasn't upset about missing the game. He was upset about the snacks. He filed a formal grievance that the hospital cafeteria refused to deliver wings and beer to his room during the halftime show. He argued that patient morale is part of recovery and that depriving him of nachos was detrimental to his health. He treated the cardiac ward like a sports bar with terrible service. 43. A woman in her 30s was asked the standard intake question, "Is there any chance you could be pregnant?" She filed a complaint for agism. She claimed the question implied she was irresponsible and promiscuous. The nurse tried to explain it's a safety protocol to avoid harming a fetus with x-rays or drugs, but the patient insisted it was a personal attack on her lifestyle choices. She was offended by biology. 44. A patient needed a 24-hour urine collection test, which involves exactly what it sounds like. He returned the jug the next day, but it was empty. His complaint? The jug was too ugly to carry around at work. He refused to use the standard orange container because it clashed with his suit and demanded a discreet designer-style collection vessel. He prioritized his fashion reputation over his kidney function. 45. During a routine eye exam, the ophthalmologist used the bright light to check the patient's retina. The patient filed a complaint that the doctor had blinded him on purpose. He claimed the light was brighter than the sun and was an act of aggression. He demanded the doctor perform the exam in the dark, which by definition would make seeing inside the eye physically impossible. He wanted an eye exam without the looking part. 46. A patient with a broken leg was given a pair of standard aluminum crutches. He filed a complaint that they were too noisy. He claimed the click-click sound on the floor was annoying his sensitive ears and demanded the hospital issue him stealth crutches with silencers. He was treating his mobility aid like a tactical espionage gadget. 47. A man arrived at the ER with a splinter in his finger. After being triaged and told to wait, he filed a complaint for medical neglect. He pointed to a trauma patient being rushed back on a stretcher and shouted, "Why does he get a bed and I don't?" The nurse had to explain that a splinter is not the same as a gunshot wound. He genuinely believed all injuries are created equal and deserved equal attention. 48. A patient was prescribed a liquid medication that had to be kept refrigerated. He filed a complaint that the medicine was too cold when he swallowed it. He demanded the pharmacist formulate a version that could be stored warm, but still work. He was essentially complaining that physics and thermodynamics were inconvenient for his sensitive throat. 49. A woman undergoing a sleep study to diagnose apnea ripped the sensors off halfway through the night. Her complaint? The room was too quiet. She couldn't sleep without her television on full volume. She demanded the sleep lab install a 60-inch screen and play reruns of Friends so she could get a natural night's sleep. She failed the test because she refused to sleep in a sleep lab. 50. A patient received a prescription for a cream to treat a rash. He filed a complaint that the cream was too greasy. He demanded a matte finish ointment because he didn't want his skin to shine. He treated a medical dermatological treatment like a cosmetic primer, caring more about his skin's texture than curing the infection eating it. 51. A man scheduled for a colonoscopy filed a complaint about the prep drink. He wasn't upset about the taste, he was upset about the volume. He argued that drinking a gallon of liquid was inhumane and demanded the doctor just use a smaller camera so he wouldn't have to clean out his system. He genuinely believed that technology should have advanced enough to navigate through waste, refusing to do his part in the procedure. 52. A patient in a shared hospital room filed a grievance against his roommate. The complaint? The roommate was sleeping too loudly. He wasn't snoring, he was just breathing heavily while recovering from surgery. The patient demanded the nurses wake him up every time he took a deep breath. He essentially wanted the staff to torture a sick man so he could enjoy silence in a semi-private room. 53. A woman brought her cat to the ER and demanded it be treated for a limp. When told this was a hospital for humans, she filed a complaint for species discrimination. She argued that a doctor is a doctor and bones are bones. She refused to leave, claiming the Hippocratic Oath should apply to all living creatures, completely ignoring the existence of veterinary school. 54. A patient recovering from anesthesia asked the nurse for a steak dinner. When he was brought gelatin and broth, he filed a complaint for starvation tactics. He claimed the hospital was trying to weaken him to keep him there longer. The nurse explained that solid food would make him vomit violently, but he insisted his stomach was built different. He wanted to risk aspiration pneumonia for a ribeye. 55. A man was successfully revived after flatlining for 2 minutes. His heart was beating, his brain was intact, and he was alive. His complaint? The defibrillator pads had ruined his chest hair. He was furious that the sticky pads pulled out a patch of hair when removed. He genuinely looked the doctor in the eye and said he would rather have stayed dead than deal with the itchy regrowth. These stories prove that common sense is the rarest blood type. I'm curious about you guys. How often do you actually visit the doctor? Let me know in the comments if you rush in for every sniffle or if you haven't seen a stethoscope in a decade. Hit that like button to stabilize your vitals and subscribe for more medical madness. Stay safe.